this video we are going to take a closer look at the newly released limited edition Wii knife Nexusia. So yesterday I made a video about the fresh out of the factory Wii knife Sonda, and today is Nexusia day. I was debating yesterday which knife to go with first, well, I mean, it was a toss-up. Both of them are quite interesting models in their respective ways. But what we're going to do here now is to do a typical unboxing, and then we're going to take a closer look at the knife itself, of course. So this is your typical Wii knife limited edition box. It is identical to the other boxes, just this circle here that states that it is a limited edition. On the side here we have some information about the specific version that I decided to pick up. Let me read that for you. So it says, Nexusia, grey titanium handle, hand polished satin CPM 20 CV blade, limited edition, 155 pieces. So those 155 pieces is of these specific versions. There are several versions of the Nexusia with different scales combinations and color combinations, and there's also a damascene steel version, which I actually was debating on picking up, but decided to wait a bit with. Then again, waiting is a tough choice, especially when we're talking limited editions, but it is what it is. So let's go with your typical unboxing here now, shall we? So we're gonna remove the paper sleeve here of sorts. Yeah, typical box with the added limited edition text here below. As always, we are greeted with as always with limited editions, we are greeted with a certificate of authenticity, stating that my knife is serial numbered 86 out of 155, can be seen up here perhaps. Not the most exciting serial number. I was speaking about serial numbers in a previous video of mine, thinking about which numbers are actually good numbers or interesting numbers, and I was like, you know, number one obviously, perhaps number 155 could be interesting since it is the last one, and I guess like a top 10 number is always, I mean, interesting, I guess, especially for collectors. Then there can be some other random numbers, like I guess 69 could be an interesting number for some collectors perhaps, but to me, yeah, 86, it's like, yeah, it's kind of meh, to be honest, but I really don't care that much. But I do appreciate the fact that we are given a certificate of authenticity. It does look nice with this little silver emblem mark here. So let's put this here perhaps, no, let's put it there. We also get your typical Iraqi sticker, we get some maintenance, warranty, etc. Stuff that you never really read. Another sticker, small booklet with models that are already released. Not super interesting. And then we get the typical piece of cloth there, which is actually quite nice to have. And then we have, of course, the typical Wii knife pouch, nylon pouch, which is quite nice as well, and with room for not only one but two knives. We also get some silica gel here, and well, the knife itself. So let's put all this stuff aside for now. Let's see. Oops. That, and then we can focus on the knife. Okay, so this is what my version of the Nexusia looks like. I know I give Wii knife a hard time every once in a while about how they match, or well, more like mismatch, different finishes and colors, etc. on their knives. It just get over the top really, but at times they do get things just right. At least, you know, to my personal preferences in terms of aesthetics. And this knife is one of those examples. So what we have here is a nice grey titanium scale. We've got some blue accents here. Let's see if we can get a good view here on the drilled out holes. we've got this nice blue pivot color around the extremely nice looking flame titanium polished pivot. Switching the knife here, we've got the same nice flame titanium color on the pivot here, and the blue pivot color and the blue hardware. And we also got, and this is something I don't like in general, when companies put their, especially when they put the name of the knife on the knife at all, or on the pocket clip. But here WeKnife put their logo on the pocket clip, and it's sort of a deep, it's going to be difficult to see here, but it is a deep engraving of sorts. But they did at least match it with the colors of the hardware, so it goes, quite nicely with the rest of the knife. So I have no nothing to really criticize about it. In fact, I think it looks good with the overall theme of the knife itself. And for once, I'm also getting the satin finish together with the scales that I want. Sometimes I have to, pick between the scales I want and a bead blast finish, or a satin finish, or perhaps even a coated finish. But this time I got my satin finish blade together with the scales that I was looking for. But it's not really the scales here that are the most interesting part about the Nexusia, despite being, quite good looking in its own, way. What's interesting here is when we unfold the knife and reveal the blade. So it's not a really large blade, but it is an interesting one. What will catch your eye first is, of course, the fuller here, which is not super polished, but you can see that it has a semi-nice polish to it. And once you look beyond the fuller, you will see the nice hollow grind, or it's actually a compound grind blade here. Let's see if we can get a better look at it like this. So there is quite a bit going on here with the blade. I also like the inclusion actually of a full fingered choil, which will fit even my fat fingers. And I do like choils, so this is a nice addition. But all in all, this is not the type of knife we see on an everyday basis, and it's more like, like WeKnife are looking back at their track record or history, where they, once upon a time, WeKnife were actually quite intuitive. They made some really unique designs, both in terms of blades and scales, handles, and just, the overall knife designs. They were pretty wild back in the day. And then they grew kind of boring for a few years. But with the recent releases of the Cepheus, the Exiton, the Diatomic, the Sonda, this one, and upcoming knives like the Solid and the Faris, etc. I think that they are trying to reinvent themselves a bit again. And that is something I highly appreciate, because I want them to get creative again. I want them to try to do something different on the market. And they are pumping out interesting releases now. I've got to say that. I never thought I would sit here and say that again and show a lot of different WeKnives, but it really is the case that they are finding their way back to their roots in the best possible ways. So maybe we should try and crunch some numbers and specs and talk a little bit about the overall design here. And I think we should start with the numbers actually, and then we can talk about certain design aspects. So what we have here is a medium-sized knife, I would say. We've got a total length here of 211 millimeters, so 21.1 centimeters in total length. We've got a blade length of 88 millimeters, so that is 8.8 centimeters. And we've got a blade thickness. Let's see if we can get a look at the full thickness, which can be seen up here. It goes into an earless wedge grind, but we do have the full thickness seen here, and that is 3.2 millimeters. And I would say right away that I would have preferred it to be 4 millimeters. For me, that would have made a difference, and I will talk more about that later in the video. We've got a a close length of, I believe, 123 millimeters. So 12.3 centimeters in close length. And materials, yeah, titanium, blade is CPM 20 CV. And that seems to be the one blade steel that WeKnife works with right now, because every new release seems to come in 20 CV, and to me that is a great steel. I mean, it's the equivalent to M390 and CTS 204P, and that is a great steel. So I'm not complaining, but I'm just throwing it out. There's not a lot of variety going on in steel types right now, for, you know, better or worse depending on your own steel preferences. Where were we? Yeah, so oh, did I manage to get something here? Trying to keep it nice and shiny now for the video. Let me just do like this. Give me a second. So let's talk a little bit about the general design here. I've already said a bit about the blade shape, and let's take a look at the handle here. From an aesthetic point, I did say that I like, you know, pretty much everything about it, but I will say that in general, I am actually not the biggest fan of, you know, speed holes like this. It just feels not very personal, it feels kind of random, etc. But this time around, I will say that, I mean, it works. It works. Thanks to, you know, the small details like the blue accents, etc. And the fact that there are only a couple of holes here, which are semi-symmetrical, since they are on both sides at the exact same position. And I do like the fact that it's going in a curve from small to large. I mean, it's the little things. So I mean, it makes it more, you know, bearable of sorts. We got a pocket clip here that I mentioned with the WeKnife logo engraved to it, milled from a solid titanium piece. Not the most interesting pocket clip, but definitely functional, I would say, looking at the profile. And yeah, I mean, it is nothing super fancy, but it goes along nicely with the rest of the lines of the overall knife. We got some jimping here on top of the spine. It's actually on the aggressive side, a bit more aggressive than what we usually see from WeKnife. And the spine here is not crowned, it's not super sharp, but it does, you know, holding the knife like this, it definitely feels perhaps not super comfortable, to be honest. Not bad, but definitely, I mean, the 3.2 millimeters, and then you add, you know, you take away a few more millimeters due to this wedge here. If I press my hand like this or finger like that, and then show it to the camera, you will see those marks on my thumb. Not super comfortable. I did mention that I do like the full finger choil here. So placing the knife like this, it feels actually a little bit awkward in a way. I wonder why. I mean, it feels not bad, but it doesn't feel quite as good as I actually thought it would. But it works. It is nice with a full finger choil though, however, I will say that. Let's take a look here at, the closing action. It's not really hydraulic, but the knife is brand new out of the box. It will probably wear in nicely, but you do have to give it a little bit of a push or I mean, this will differ a bit from knife to knife, I guess. But drop shot, well, not really drop shot right now. Let's hold like this right away. You have to give it a little bit of a push. But the opening action is very, very nice. It's definitely on point. This is obviously a frame lock design. Let's take a look at the lockup here. I would say the lockup is around 25%, definitely a solid lockup. And there is no lock stick. Is there any blade play? We're gonna use I'm gonna do like this to not get fingerprints on the knife. There is no blade play, which is course much appreciated. Let's see, what more aspects can we talk about? We do have a little bit of a backspacer here with some hole drilled in it and some lines. Definitely nothing super fancy, to be honest. I don't really know what to say about that. Doesn't make a difference. But it also has an integrated lanyard hole for those of you that enjoy using lanyards on your knives. I personally do not, but if you do, you can utilize this lanyard hole. Let's take a look at the centering of the blade, shall we? So this blade is, I would say, like 99% centered. Or am I being too hard? Okay, well, close to 100% centered. I'm gonna say 99%. See if you can see that. So overall, I would say that, the build quality and the overall fit and finish feels to be on point. The grind lines really are very nice, symmetrical. Plunge line looks perfect to me. See if we can take a look at that as well. So yeah, overall, I will say that it is a well-made, medium-sized knife. The flipper tab here, it's not, very large. It's on the smaller side, and it may look a bit uncomfortable, so to say, but it's actually quite nice to use. There is jimping on the top and on the back side. Let's see if we can get it in focus. It is easy to get a grip. Your finger will never, slip off the flipper tab. I can guarantee you that. It is very, very highly functional. So, and did I mention my size and gloves? So I wear size 10 in gloves, fairly large hands. Placing the knife in my hand, looks like this. Finger in the finger groove area and the other behind. It feels, in this grip it feels good. It does feel, like I said, a little bit random in this grip, but both from the spine here and that these fingers, it's actually a little bit pointier than I would have wanted on this area. Nothing major, but I'm just throwing it out. And a reverse grip, not that people use the knife in a reverse grip very often, but it feels, I would say it feels okay in the reverse grip. Once again, even in the reverse grip, this finger here, it is not super comfortable, actually. I've got to say that. And if you want to place your thumb up here, it's going to be on top of this extended lanyard hole. This is nicely rounded, so it's not a glass breaker shape or anything. It's not pointy, but if you press your thumb here, it will feel not very good. But honestly, how often do you use a knife in a reverse grip? Really, it is a non-issue for 99.999% of the people picking this knife up. Let's go for some close-up shots here now of the knife. Really like the flame titanium here. I'm usually not a fan of flame titanium. I remember I said that in the same when I was talking about the Sonda. I also mentioned that, but with the Sonda as well, the flame titanium looked really good. But I guess it can differ a bit from knife to knife. But it's easy that if you throw too much flame titanium on something, that it gets a bit, tacky, a bit over the top. Same with Damascus, actually, in my opinion. Then again, there are some full-dress Damascus knives that are incredible. So it's gonna vary from knife to knife. Let's see if we can get some nice close-ups here of the compound ground blade and the fuller. Definitely a unique blade for a folding knife. Nice symmetrical grind lines. Let's see, did I mention the balance pointer? I mean, the knife is not a heavy knife. It is actually heavier though than the Sonda, despite being a lot smaller, or not smaller, but the blade is a lot shorter at least. Let's see where the balance point is here. So the balance point is nicely placed here at the finger groove. And I bet there's going to be a bit of milling on this knife, right? So looking here, I can see that on the shove side, there is quite a bit of milling, internal milling going on, but on the clip side there is not a whole lot of milling, just a little bit. But then again, we do have the speed holes, etc., which do work as a weight reduction as well. So that we can keep in mind. But let's see if we can get a view here of the milling of both sides, perhaps. It's not easy, but you might see something somewhere. Yeah, so a nicely designed, well-balanced, medium-sized folding knife. Let's try the factory sharpness next, shall we? So, by now we know that this is a great looking knife in terms of, aesthetics and, well, I mean, especially the blade profile here with the compound grind, fuller, etc. All those nice grind lines. We also know that the fit and finish is on point and that the ERGOS are, well, I mean, if not perfect, they are still quite good. What we haven't tested yet, however, is the actual sharpness of the factory edge. And I will say that I did a sharpness test yesterday with the Sonda, and that knife was quite slicey. I'm not sure if I can compare it to this, though. I mean, the Sonda is a flat grind, this is a compound grind. They do share the same thickness of the spine, but the blade geometry will probably differ a bit. But I mean, being made in the same time frame, I do hope they put some attention to the sharpness of this knife as well. I mean, I am expecting this one to be quite nice at slicing paper, but perhaps not on the level of the Sonda, to put it like that. But less speculation, more slicing now. And we will start with the printing paper as always. I think we're off to a pretty decent start. I mean, it slices quite nicely, but I will say that it is perhaps not really on the level of the Sonda, but even so it is doing quite a fine job. I'm gonna fold it here and do some slicing as well. Yeah, I mean, it will obviously slice paper, and it will do it quite nicely. Let's go with newspaper then, shall we? So let's see. Be careful not to let the choil grab hold of the paper, making it a bit tricky. But I mean, you can see that it slices the newspaper actually really, really nicely. It almost feels like it slices the newspaper better than the printing paper. So yeah. So, it may not be on level of the Sonda, but it did do some nice confetti work here of the printing paper. Let's put one extra, just gotta feel it again. Yeah, I mean it is. I mean it does do a good job slicing the printing paper as well. Just not as fine as the Sonda, but I mean obviously you can see that this one will slice the printing paper really well. So overall, I would have to, salute WeKnife on their job with the factory sharpness. It is definitely on point. Well done, WeKnife. Keep it up. Time for some, quick final thoughts and conclusions about the WeKnife limited edition Nexusia. So this is a stylish looking knife. I mean, the handle may be on the more, subtle side on the scale, but the blade definitely makes up for it, being the centerpiece here of the show. And I mean, the blade should in general always be the centerpiece of a knife, be it a fixed blade or a folding knife. I mean, the handle here, we do have this grey titanium and the details here with the blue accents, which looks really nice together. And I particularly like the flame titanium pivot with the blue pivot collar around on both sides. That is, a really fine touch that, really sets the tone for the handle. But like I mentioned, the blade here, that is where things are really, going on. With the fuller, semi-polished fuller, the compound grind blade, and the swedge that starts quite early on here. And I mean, the swedge, while looking good, it does have, an impact on the ERGOS on the knife, placing my thumb up here, because it's just, it feels a little bit uncomfortable, to be honest. I mean, looking at my thumb here, you do get some marks, depending on just how hard you press. But more about that later. So, I mean, this is a really, in my opinion, a really stylish looking knife. And we have seen a few of those recently from WeKnife. I mean, it feels like they are finding their way back to their roots when they were truly, creative or intuitive and kind of wild in their designs. And I really enjoy that, because for a while I thought we would never see anything more interesting from WeKnife. They were just pushing out all these models that looked kind of the same. But with the Cepheus, I would say, and then the Exiton and the Atomic Sonda, the upcoming Nefaris and Solid, etc. I mean, it's obvious that they are working on some really, nice, creative and intuitive designs again. And I truly, truly appreciate that. In terms of like fit and finish and build quality, I would say that the fit and finish is on par, definitely, with this one. My only minor nitpick was in terms of the centering, since I find the centering to be not 100% centered, more like 99%. And I am nitpicky, but this is a limited release and people will want everything to be perfect. But I guess most people wouldn't even, be able to distinguish that this one is 99% centered and not 100% centered. And it can probably be tweaked a little by just messing with the pivot. So, in terms of ERGOS, I would say that the ERGOS, I mean, in this grip, the ERGOS are nice. But utilizing the finger choil here, or wait, we can start by utilizing the thumb grip here. I mean, we do have some aggressive jimping here, but like I mentioned, the 3.2 millimeter blade thickness and then the swedge on, I mean, it does feel not too great on your thumb, to be honest. And utilizing the full finger choil here, I mean, I appreciate when companies do make full finger choils. Sometimes we see companies that make something that is like half full finger choil. And that is, in my opinion, just a waste of cutting edge. I mean, either you make it a small, sharpening choil of sorts, and if you want to do a finger choil, make sure it fits a finger. Otherwise, it is just a waste of cutting edge. I can't say that enough. But using it like this, you place your thumb even more on this thin area of the back part of the spine here, and it also feels not really 100% here. I mean, it is a little bit pointy, I would say. So I mean, I appreciate the effort, I appreciate the full finger choil, but I could have made it slightly more ergonomical in some sense. In terms of reverse grip, I mean, who uses a knife in a reverse grip? So it's not super comfortable, but perhaps you're not using it in this grip for extended periods of times. Even, I mean, if you are even using it in this grip to begin with, I think most people will not. The opening and closing action. So the opening action is super snappy. like the sound of it as well. But the closing action is, I mean, it's not really a drop shot or hydraulic. It might become like that in time. I mean, it is smooth, definitely smooth, but it is not drop shot yet. This is a brand new knife, so I mean, in time it might break, a bit. Or if I, adjust it a tiny bit here, we might perhaps get it to be more drop shotty and 100% centered. Who knows for sure. So the Nexusia is in my opinion, to sum it up, it is a really nice looking medium-sized knife. It has some minor drawbacks in terms of ERGOS, but nothing, major, I will say. So I mean, if you've been looking at this, thinking about picking one up, I do have a hard time seeing you will be dissatisfied, because it is a really well-made knife. Is it my favorite knife out of the new V-knife models that we've seen, like the Exiton, Cepheus, Magnetron, the Atomic, Sonda, etc.? Well, it is not. I mean, the blade shape, the blade is really nice looking. I mean, if this would have been like 10 centimeters, 100 millimeters in blade length, and a 4mm blade, then that would have made things perhaps a little bit different. And if it would have been slightly more ergonomical in the choil grip, etc., then it could have potentially become my favorite new release. But the way it is right now, it is a knife that I like a lot. I like the looks of it. I do like, sort of the feel of it. And it definitely has a place in my V-knife collection and in my folding collection in general. Not really sure what more to add right now. I think I'll just say that, if you like what you see, you should probably get one. It's not, the cheapest of knives. Then again, I mean, like I said, it is a limited version. 155 pieces for this specific configuration. Not sure if it is 155 pieces for the rest of them. It will be likely to be so. And the Damasteel version, I bet, is more limited. Probably, not even 100 of that one. But I'm not really sure. I haven't checked into that. But yeah, a nice knife nonetheless. The limited edition V-knife Nexusia.